What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We've continued to look at more models and more forecasting tools and all of that. They have significantly uptrended on this area of interest since yesterday, so we're going to have to pay attention, and we're going to be going over everything on that as in today's video. We're also going to be watching a few other factors and conditions as well, so we'll take a look at those. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right now. So here's what we can start off with. This is your 12Z European from yesterday. The models started to uptrend with this run right here, and that's only going to continue as time continues to go on. We saw that with the 0Z as well. We'll show you that in a little bit, but here's what we have for you right here with the 12Z run starting off right here. This is 96 hours out, and as you can see, southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, you're looking at a few ensembles starting to already pick up a signal over here off the coast of those islands right here, 1011, 1012 millibar system, and then as it starts to move further to the west, it's going to give it, have time to strengthen and all of that stuff, and we can go ahead and already show you that 120 hours out from here. So this is 120 hours out, and already you're seeing a much more concentrated signal across the main development region. You're looking at 1012, 1011, 1009. You're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think it's 11 or 12 ensembles already 5 days out at this current point. Out of the 30 that are run by the European. So you're going to want to pay attention to that as well. And I know we have a lot of this stuff over here in the subtropics, but ultimately that's not too much to worry about. That's mainly like mid-latitude cyclone stuff. I'm mainly worried about what's going on in the tropics right here, and that's what you're going to want to pay attention to as we move forward with this. So 144 hours out, which is 6 days. Man, this is a pretty significant uptrend already right here. You're not seeing a lot of too much power with this. You are seeing a few ensembles that have a significant power with it already, 1006, 1005 in those areas right there. But ultimately, you do have a pretty significant uptick with the ensembles, especially as you move further to the west in the main development region. And as time continues to go on, that's only going to increase. I've already looked at this ahead of time. Things really start to escalate at this current point right here. So if you're in the Lesser Antilles, you're going to want to watch this very closely, because this is going to be a big threat for you guys as this heads towards your regions. And going to 7 days out, we can even show you that this really starts to actually turn up at this current point, because you're noticing more ensembles with more power, 986 millibars right here, and this is already starting to strengthen at this current point. This is hurricane strength, ladies and gentlemen, that's going on just east of the Leeward Islands, and you still have the bulk of the ensembles behind it that are like 1,000, 7,000, 3,004 and all of that. Those are only going to continue to increase in strength as time continues to go on. And going to 192 hours out, this really starts to blow up across a lot of these regions right here. Now, what I'm looking at right here, and I think this has been a pretty consistent trend, is the big development isn't going to start until it gets closer to the Lesser Antilles, and that's been pretty consistent among a lot of the models right there. So you're going to want to pay attention to those trends moving forward, and we'll keep you updated on that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But what you're noticing right here is you're noticing a lot of ensemble support with this, and all of these ensembles are moving further and further to the west right here, and you're going to want to pay attention to that, because this is potentially going to pose a big threat to land. And as we go to 9 days out right here, it really starts to turn up right here. You're not seeing particularly too strong ensembles right here, but they are pretty concentrated, and a lot of ensembles even have this entering the Caribbean over here, so you're going to want to pay attention to that as well. And even still, you're still seeing some power with these ensembles at 12Z right here, especially compared to what we were seeing at the 0Z run from yesterday, where we were seeing a lot of ensembles, but not with too much power. You're kind of seeing a combination of the both right here, and this is really starting to impact land at this current point. And then as you get to 10 days out, the power continues to increase right here as the system starts to move further up to the north, at least with the majority of the ensembles, and you even have a little bit of ensemble support in the Gulf as well. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'll pay attention to that for you guys moving forward, but by and large, you're seeing a pretty significant uptick in model support, at least with the European right here. So you're going to want to pay attention to that going forward, because if you're in Puerto Rico, if you're in Hispaniola, if you're in the Lesser Antilles, you are definitely going to want to pay attention to this, because of the ensembles just starting to scream, hey, we're looking at tropical development right here. This is a pretty legit signal. You're going to want to pay very, very close attention to this as we move forward with this. So that's kind of your 0Z ensemble run right there. Let's go ahead, not 0Z, 12Z. We'll go ahead and show you the 0Z right now. So this is the 0Z that we have for you right here, ladies and gentlemen. And the 0Z already, you can see 96 hours out is a pretty significant uptick on the ensembles, not just with the amount of them, but with some power increase as well. You're already at 1,007, 1,012, 1,010. Before we were seeing like 1,013, 1,011 on average right there. So that's something you're going to want to keep a close eye on as well. But that's what you're looking at right here. You already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ensembles members tagged, compared to like 4 or 5 from the 12Z at this current point. And as that continues to move on, we're going to go ahead and go to 120 hours out. You're already seeing a significant power increase as well as a significant amount of model increase as well. You're looking at up to, I believe it's like almost a dozen, if that looks correct, compared to the 12Z, which we can go ahead and show you that. Here's the 12Z at this current point. We are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whereas with the 0Z at this current point, not only is there a significant power increase, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ensembles. That is a pretty significant uptick at this current point, and that is definitely something you are going to want to pay attention to moving forward. And then going ahead and going to 144 hours out, which is now 6 days. Man, look at this, folks. Look at the amount of ensembles, and look at how concentrated that signal is at that current point. The Europeans just screaming again that this is going to happen. And I know the 0Z from yesterday was seemed a bit bullish. This takes bullish to another level right here, ladies and gentlemen. And that is a pretty concerning thing for me as a forecaster looking at that, because what we're seeing at this current point is we're seeing a pretty big uptick in the models. And not only that, the conditions are also going to be improving as well to allow this to happen. And the big development hasn't even started yet. It's not even going to start for probably another couple days or so as it gets closer to the Lesser Antilles. So that's kind of your situation that you're dealing with right here. And that concentrated signal only continues to move further to the west, and you're already seeing some ensembles with quite a bit of power affiliated with this. 1,002, 1,003, 1,002 right here. And you're looking at the majority of the ensemble runs out of the ones the European provides, calling for tropical development. That's pretty concerning for me already, and this isn't even the full run at this current point. This isn't even outside of the main development region. Now, I will say, though, that a pretty noticeable shift I am noticing with this run is the 12Z was a bit further to the south. The 0Z is now further up to the north, so you're going to want to pay attention to those trends and see how they're going to evolve, whether they move further to the north or further to the south. At that current point, track's going to be pretty important, but it's generally the same area, I would say, at this current point, so you're going to want to pay attention to that as well. Then going to 192 hours out, that ensemble track continues for a pretty long time, and you're noticing, yes, there may not be that one ensemble that screams 960 something at this current point, but the amount of power associated with the majority of these ensembles that are kind of indicating it is pretty concerning to me, to say the very least. So you're going to want to pay attention to that over there. But by and large, this fact that the signal is so strong at the 0Z is very concerning for me. And as we get to the conditions, we can explain to you why that's happening and why we're seeing so much power with this ensemble run right here. Now going to 9 days out for you, it's pretty interesting. There's a pretty marketable shift up to the north where the majority of the ensembles do keep this further to the north and potentially out to sea. We'll have to see what happens in the near future after this, but still, the fact that you're seeing not just all these ensembles, but plenty of ensembles with decent power and decent strengthening with this is a concerning thing. And I know I've been saying it like a broken record, but it's true. And I need to emphasize that as well. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to. And then going to 10 days out, at that current point, the ensembles continue to move this system further to the west, and then you have a pretty decent amount of them actually entering the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola right here. But holy crap, guys. This is a pretty significant uptrend, and we can go ahead and compare this to the 12Z for you guys right here. This is what we had for the 12Z. Definitely more concentrated, but not as many ensembles, and not as many ensembles with power affiliated with it. Now with going to the 0Z, completely different story. You have a significant increase in ensembles. Now granted, where these ensembles go is a bit more spread out, and the models are kind of split with that, but this is a pretty significant uptrend over the last 24 hours, and that is something you're going to have to pay attention to moving forward, and we will keep you updated on all of this here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But before we get to conditions, I want to see how the GFS is moving with this and how they're reacting to these changes, both with the 12Z and with the 0Z. So we'll go ahead and take a quick look at that. We'll go to 168 hours out, and we'll show the GFS ensembles. 12Z GFS ensembles were not particularly that impressed with this from when I looked at it yesterday, and we can kind of even reflect that 192 hours out. You weren't seeing as many ensembles as the European, which was just screaming for development. You did see an increase of power with that, but by 10 days out, for some reason, the GFS just kind of killed the signal off. So that's something kind of interesting to kind of note right there. So the 12Z was not agreeing with what the European was selling at that current point. But let's see what the 0Z was doing. Okay, the 0Z is definitely a lot more in agreement with this at this current point. Maybe not as powerful, but the ensembles are definitely catching up with this. And like I said in yesterday's video, if you see general increases in agreement between the European and the GFS, that is a very concerning sign for you ladies and gentlemen. And then going to 216 hours out, definitely seeing more and more tropical development over there. And then as you even go to 10 days out, yeah, you're definitely seeing a pretty significant uptick for the GFS for tropical development, and that is something you're going to want to pay attention to going forward, especially if you're in the Caribbean, because the GFS does have it a bit further to the south and wants the system more likely to enter the Caribbean compared to what we have with the European, where it's mainly staying in the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola. So that's kind of a situation that you're going to want to pay attention to moving forward. But the fact that this is already going to be starting just a few days from now, and the tropical wave is coming off the coast of Africa in the next 24 to 48 hours is something you're going to want to pay attention to as well. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go to some conditions and then some operational runs. I'm not going to talk about water temps because we already did that. I'm going to talk more so about the wind shear and the moisture, because I want to know, okay, we're seeing these big uptrends with the models. What's driving it, and what's the kind of conditions that may inhibit this? All right, before we get to the wind shear, we do have some breaking news for you as I'm coming back and I'm recording this a little bit later. We do have an area of interest that has been tagged in the Atlantic once again off the Carolina coast. So let's go ahead and get into it, and let's go ahead and read it. An area of low pressure is expected to form on Saturday along a frontal system off the southeastern coast of the United States. Additional slow development could occur through early next week as the system is forecasted to move slowly east-northeastward. 10% chance in the next 48 hours, 20% in the next 7 days. So we're going to want to pay attention to that. I will say this does look like it's going to be more of a mesoscale threat compared to more of a tropical threat, and it does, at least until it detaches from the fronts, will remain that way. But that is something to watch if you're paying attention to like shipping concerns. If you're in Bermuda, you're going to want to watch that and all of that. So we'll have to pay attention to it. I don't think models really have picked, actually the ensembles did pick up on this quite a bit, with the European especially, but I was thinking, yeah, this looks like a more mesoscale type of system. But it looks like it might be tropical in nature, so we're going to have to pay attention to that as well. But now let's go ahead and get back to the wind shear. So here's your wind shear map that you have pulled up for you right now for the European. We have quite a bit to go over as well. We're going to go ahead and start because we need to look at the conditions. We need to look at these and go, okay, why is we seeing such a significant uptrend with the MDR? So let's go ahead and take a look at this. In the next few days, you're going to notice that there's going to be some pretty concerning developments happening in the main development region, and we can go ahead and start showing you that right here. So let's go ahead and start. So we're going out about this. Starting about 48 hours out, you're noticing the wind shear really starting to clear out across much of the tropics in that region, so you're going to want to pay attention to that for quite a while. But then 4 days out, which is 96 hours, the wind shear completely collapses. That is a very big concern that I have, because before the wind shear was kind of going up and going down. Mainly it was remaining steady across parts of the eastern MDR, but across the western MDR it was kind of fluctuating a bit more. We're not seeing that anymore at this current point, and you're going to want to take this very seriously. And then as you continue to move on, we're going to about 5 days out now. This continues across much of the tropics right here. And then you do have some quote-unquote shear starting to develop in the western part of the MDR, where the low-pressure system is expected to move in the next 7 days. But by that point, that's less shear and more of the wind field of the storm itself in the upper levels. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. There's maybe a little bit of shear kind of mixed into that, but ultimately that's kind of the situation we're dealing with at this current point in time. So you're going to have to watch that. You're going to have to pay attention to quite a bit as well. So that's kind of what we have going on 7 days out. And then as time goes on even further, as we get to like 10 days out, wind shear across much of the tropics just collapses completely. Like this is a situation where the switch that we've been talking about so discreetly is going to be flipping very, very soon. And once that happens, we have quite a bit of activity that's going to be happening. This is going to be a very active start to the season if this actually starts to blow up the top. So that is a big concern that I have. But another thing I do want to pay attention to is the dry air aspect of it. I want to look at the moisture and see what's going on in there. But here's what we got for you, ladies and gentlemen. You have a wave coming off right now. It's going to be moving into the MDR. The dry air is still going to be somewhat present in the north, but this is more manageable dry air. And what I mean by that, it's more easy to mix out at this current point, and it's going to be less of a concern for me because if you have a really good outflow boundary, if you have a really good amount of convection that starts wrapping around the center of circulation, dry air is not going to be necessarily an issue because wind shear is not necessarily going to be an issue. How dry air gets into tropical systems is kind of the wind shear starts chipping away at the structure, and it also brings more dry air with it, and it starts entering into parts of the structure, and then it starts to try to wrap itself around the core and then try to infiltrate it and then choke the system out that way. That's what Hurricane Estelle did in 2022. That's kind of how it happened. It was supposed to be a major hurricane, but then dry air got into it and it kind of ultimately choked it out. So that's something to pay attention to right there now that you're thinking about it. So that's kind of the main thing I've been watching throughout this whole thing. And then as time continues to go on, you're looking at this right here. More moisture continues to enter the MDR, and by the time we get to like 10 days out, you have quite a bit the amount that's going to be happening over there. So we'll have to keep you updated on that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you want to help out, hang out, or ask us questions, join the Storms Unite Discord server. Link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.